Well, I'm back here with you again, Dr. Dave. Personal friends with the Zodiac killer, Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers. I did a little video for you about this new hoax that's out about the Anglin brothers escaping from Alcatraz and getting towed behind a boat, body surfing in 52-degree water, hanging on to an extension cord. How ridiculous. But the thing I wanted to tell you was, I remembered over the last few days after doing that video, I remembered what Frank Morris told me in Mexico City back in 1970, 71, around in there, about that picture of these two guys standing beside an ant bed in Brazil. Frank told me that a friend of his went down there to do some business. Must have been talking about Brizzi. Imagine what kind of business he was doing. And he told Brizzi to take a picture. And you know, I think Frank told me he was down there with this guy, and he saw a couple of guys out there wherever this ant bed was at. I definitely recall Frank telling me that they just picked these two guys because they had facial features that looked like the Anglin brothers. And I looked at the picture and I looked at the Anglin brothers and I told him, I don't see any resemblance here. And Frank said, well, they don't resemble, but the thing about it is, the experts, when they look at this picture, they're going to see things in the bone structure of these guys' faces that resemble the Anglins. And I looked at him and I looked at the picture and I looked at them and I said, I still don't see any resemblance. And he goes, well, you're not an expert. And that's where the thing stayed. I really didn't get what he was talking about. I had no clue why he was telling me this. But the things that I do remember about it are that he said that a friend of his, now I don't know if he went with him and did it or just a friend did it, but he said that they took this picture of these guys standing beside of an ant bed, and Brizzi, when he took the picture, told the guys that he wanted his wife to see how big the ant bed was, so he wanted these guys to stand beside of it so that she could compare it to the size of a grown man. Now, that's how the picture got taken. Frank Morris had something to do with that, and I believe he told me he was in Brazil for a short period of time, and I believe it was just Frank Morris that went with Brizzi on this one trip, since Brizzi was flying a plane around illegally and smuggling narcotics. That was a great thing for Frank to get involved in, because he liked taking narcotics. Now, I remember Frank telling me, someday you may hear that these guys in Brazil are my friends here, but they're not. And I was really confused. I was like, wait a minute, now you just got done saying that your friend went to Brazil. You won't say whether or not you went with him, but you might have went with him, and they took this picture, and there's two guys, and what the heck are you talking about? And Frank just goes, well, look, just don't worry about it. Just look at this picture and know that these guys are not those guys. And I said, that's not hard for me to do. And he goes, okay. but it will be very difficult for the experts someday. And I go, okay. You know, Frank Morris, with his IQ of 133, is pretty incredible to me that this guy, figured out years in advance that the forensic experts were going to look at this picture and think someday that that was the Anglin brothers, because no one has seen them for so many years. And they're going to say they changed and all this other thing. Well, I want you to know, I'm going to tell you again, I told you in my other video, the Anglin brothers were very clean cut, and so was Frank. These guys been in prison all their lives. They knew that they had to shave every morning for inspection, and they dressed, I mean, they wore prison blues all the time, but, they were clean. And these guys fit so well into society that a lot of people just didn't notice them. And they would keep their distance from each other and communicate with each other with hand signals. And they could move around anywhere they wanted and find victims that way. And I wanted to tell you something else that I remember about these guys. A little boy, they used to get outside of my window was getting up and trying to go outside every night. And I would tell her, when she would catch me and wake me up, I would tell her that I was going outside to play, or to play with my friends. And they thought I had these imaginary friends or something. Well, those guys would stand outside my window, and we didn't have air conditioning back then. And they would say, "Come out and play. Come outside. Come on outside. We're your friends. Come out and play." And it would half wake me up, and I would try to think, well, who are my friends that would come out want to play at night? I don't know, but I would end up over there by the door trying to go out of the house. And sometimes my mom would catch me, and there was one time that I got outside and I had to go to the bathroom, so I started to pee on the bush, and I looked down there. And there's Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers, and Frank goes, "Oh shit, he's peeing." John Anglin jumped up, stepped out of the bush, and says, "I can get him." And Frank motioned, I guess, for him to get me. Well, I was standing right by the door, and I slipped right back inside the door, closed the door, and locked it. And I went in the house, and I think I woke my mom up, and she came out, and I remember hearing Frank saying, "Ah, hell, let's get out of here." That was really, when I think back about that, and how close I came to being a victim of the Zodiac killer, it just really, imagine someone outside your window, he would scratch on the screen. Hey, come out. Come outside and play. Come on, get up. Get up and come outside and play. We want to play with you. We're your friends. And I remember telling my sister about this. They must have been outside listening, because I told her it's a good thing they didn't say that they were you, because I would have went out there looking for you. And she said, yeah, whatever, I don't know. They must have heard me, because I recall them waking me up again one time and saying, hey, come on out and play. It's your sister. And that was, Frank Morris was trying to talk like my sister or like a girl, and he was coming pretty close. Hey, come outside. It's me, your sister. Come outside and play. And I remember laying there in bed thinking, my sister would not say, it's your sister. She would say her name, or she would call my name. It's just none of that went together. And I don't remember what I did. I think I went in the house and told my mom, and my mom didn't believe it. And I guess those guys left, but pretty incredible tricks that these guys had to catch little kids so they could murder them. I remember seeing this face down there in the bushes. It was a lot different then. It looked more like Frank Morris's picture in Alcatraz. Right before I peed on him.